one that is not a member, and I hope you'll join. Especially right now, we have free 6 months free. So if you'd like to join, just go to IAAP-HQ.org, and then you can sign up. So I'll turn it over to Mary now, and we're looking forward to this presentation. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you so much. So good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where in the country or the North America you are. My name is Mary Nunley, and I've been presenting for 2 IAAP groups for the last several years, mostly to the national group, but I've expanded my reach some over the last 2 or 3 years. I also had an article in the IAAP Journal, I think it was the last issue, and it was talking about Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Teams shortcuts. So if you read that article, that was me. It was fun writing it and researching it. And as I mentioned right before we really officially got started, I was asked by the national chapter to present at their spring event, which this was before everything got canceled. And this was going to be a hands-on workshop with Sway, To Do, and Microsoft Teams. So what I've done is I've turned this into a 1-hour more show you, and then I've got my email information that I'll provide, and Pat knows how to reach me as well, so that if you do have questions after you start experimenting, let me know, and I'm happy to answer your questions. These are all platforms that I use on a regular basis myself, in addition to Zoom and all of the Google tools. So if I don't know it, I'll find an answer, or I'll go to my son, who's my tech support, and he'll find an answer for me. But if you've got a question, I'm happy to answer it. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to turn my camera off for the presentation for 2 reasons. One, to save a little bit on bandwidth, and second of all, I don't want you to be distracted looking at me. I want you to pay attention to the presentation. So I'd love for you to keep your cameras on if you feel comfortable. Pop messages into the chat. I'll be watching those. I may not be able to respond instantaneously, but I will be watching the chat as well. And I'm going to share my screen in just a second. Before I get started though, are there any questions? Okay, then I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. All right, so we're going to talk tonight about some online collaboration tools, and 3 that we're going to be focusing on are Teams, To Do, and Sway. Now, in an hour-long presentation with time for questions and stuff, I'm not going to be able to teach you everything about each of these tools, but hopefully you'll walk away going, okay, I feel more comfortable, I feel more confident, I've got an idea of what I can do when I'm using them. So for those of you who want to track me down, my name is Mary Nunley. I'm the co-founder of the Lavender Dragon team. Let me just say, if you ever start your own company, find a short name, because it makes email ridiculous when people have to send me an email at marynunley@lavenderdragonteam.com. Unfortunately, I have to use my business name in order to do a lot of those things like setting up email. All right, so here we go. By the time that we are done today, you should know how to download the To Do app, install and create your first task list, create a 2-page newsletter or presentation using Sway, describe some of the functions of Microsoft Teams and how to use the team communication tools, and if time permits, I'll even sneak in a few little collaboration things that you can do using Office 365, as long as you're connected to OneDrive. So Teams. Back in March, a lot of folks are just like, Teams, what's that? Really don't have to use it. Then March came and it's kind of like, oh no, everybody go work from home. How are we going to stay connected? So whether it's using Microsoft Teams or Zoom or Google Meet, each one of these platforms has their pros and their cons. Microsoft Teams has really stepped up with some of the cool new features that they've developed. So you can use it to chat, you can use it for meetings, you can use it to make and receive calls. Now, one of the things with calling is it's going to be dependent on your business or organization settings. Not all organizations will allow people to make calls from Teams. Some people still want you to use the phone. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on calls, but if you've ever used Skype, it's very similar. And then, of course, being able to collaborate, which is one of the key things to having everyone in the organization using the same software and platforms. So my first question to you is, do you use Teams right now? And if so, what do you use them for? Feel free to unmute and share your answer or type it in the chat. Or if you don't feel like answering the question, we'll just continue and move on with the presentation. So I'm just gonna give it a moment and let people answer if they desire.
Good evening. Yes, we use it for document sharing.
Okay, for document sharing, excellent. Do you use it for any type of collaboration?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Okay, mostly for virtual meetings, having Teams but not using it out. Okay, still sending documents back and forth by email, team meetings, group meetings. Okay, excellent. And I think sometimes you need to educate other people that you're working with in your organization to like, here are some of the benefits. Because many times people see it as a like, oh, it's just for online meetings, or oh, it's just for chat. We don't need this, or why do you want me to do that? And so sometimes it helps if you can just have a meeting, educate, get people excited and say, look at all these cool things that we do. Hang on, one person is trying to come in. All right, there we go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump back and forth between the presentation and actually going into the team software. So we're going to take a peek at meetings first. There's some really nice features. There's a whiteboard feature. You can do meeting notes and closed captioning, which is very nice with Teams, and it will automatically do the closed captioning for you. You can change your background. You can share files. There's also some new features that are coming out. You can also use your keyboard shortcuts. So what I'm going to do right now is pop over to Teams. Can everyone still see my screen? Okay, great. So here we have a basic Microsoft Teams, setup. I'm going to make this full screen. And the other thing is you can belong to multiple teams and you can have different roles on different teams. So for example, Lavender Dragon Team is my business, but I'm also a guest in another person's Microsoft Teams environment because I had subcontracted them out to do some work for me. And so that was how we were interacting and sharing files. So I'm going to switch over there for just a moment because somebody had mentioned the file sharing. And the thing that's really nice is you can create different channels for different conversations. And then you can also, so here is a whole conversation history. And if I come over here to files, when it stops spinning, I can see all of the different project files. And what I was able to do was upload project files for them to work from, and then they provided project files for me to work with. So this is all just one project. And these, just like on your hard drive or your, your floppy disk, boy, I'm dating myself, your external storage, you can build folders, and within the folders, you can have all the different elements. So that same thing was here. So rather than emailing back and forth, it's all kept within this particular conversational post. And so now I can search my history. I can also use the filter to search for a specific conversation thread or person or topic. So that is a really nice benefit, is being able to use that filter. So if I wanted to see everything from Frank, I could type, click the filter and then type Frank. And every conversation that I've had with Frank since the project started, that pops up. So it makes it a lot easier for me to go through, especially if there's several people involved in the chain or the conversation. Another thing, even though it's not meetings per se, this new conversation button is something new that Microsoft has introduced because a lot of users were having difficulty understanding the difference between reply and start a new conversation. And so for those that may not be familiar with this, think of it like an email. If somebody sends you a chat in Teams and you want to respond back, just hit the reply button. You're responding to that conversation and it stays with the conversation. If you wanted to change the topic or start a new conversation, clicking new conversation creates a new message thread. And what was happening was that people were just starting new conversations randomly by hitting the wrong button. And then it was very difficult. It's like when you get those emails threads and then somebody comes in and changes the conversation, or they like start talking about the original topic and then they switch midstream, and then you're going, what the heck are they even talking about? Because I like to sort my stuff by topic, by client, by project. So Microsoft said, you know what, even though that new conversation option was there, it wasn't clearly defined and people were not doing things correctly. So we're going to give you a big button. So that's what the big button is for. Any questions before I move on? Okay. I'm going to pop back over to my account and show some of the Teams features, the meeting features. So one of the things that I really, really like is over here is my menu, so that I have activity, which shows me everything that's going on. I've got chat if I want to have a conversation with just one or a small group of people, not the whole world to see it, so I can click on chat. So for example, this is a new client. We're having a little conversation. She's not ever used Teams before, but we're going to use it for file sharing. And then down here, she can also attach a file right to the conversation. You can use an emoji. You can add a GIF if you want, or a GIF, depending on how you call it. You can add a sticker. If you click the dots, if your organization allows you, you can also integrate with additional apps. And the reason I say is if your organization allows you is some companies do not allow third-party apps or apps that have not been vetted by the IT department. Other companies are like, sure, go ahead, do whatever you want. So just know that some of these functionalities may or may not be available based on your company's IT policies. So we're going to go over here. Now we're going to go hit meetings. And I can meet right now, or I can schedule a meeting. So very similar to Zoom. So I'm going to start a meeting. So we're going to have a meeting within a meeting. So we're on Zoom having a meeting. And now I'm starting a meeting in Microsoft Teams. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed that I do not blow up my computer. We've got some other options. I can join with my audio off. I can call in by phone. I can add an additional meeting room. So if you wanted to do a breakout room, let's say that you were doing a team meeting with several folks, just like in Zoom, you can create a breakout room. You can add an additional room. Now I've got my camera turned off because I've got my camera turned off here. This is just a toggle switch that will allow you to turn your camera on or off. This is the toggle switch that will allow you to turn your microphone on or off. And then when you come over here to custom setup, if I click that gear, I can also pick which of my devices I want to use. So currently I'm using the camera on my computer. I'm using the microphone that's on my computer and my speakers. If I come over here to custom setup, I can adjust that. If I click join now, we're going to see what happens. So when I click join now, I now have a menu bar across the top. I can invite other participants. And again, let me know if you can't see anything or if I need to make things larger. When I click on this icon, hide participants, that would hide everyone from the list. So maybe I don't want you to know who I'm meeting with. When I click over here, I can show the conversation, just like chat in Zoom. This is the conversation. Here I can raise my hand if I've got a question. But if you click the three dots or the ellipsis, you've got some additional options that come up. And these are the ones that a lot of times folks are like, oh, I didn't realize that this was there. So if I come to device settings, that's the same thing I looked at earlier, but now I can test my microphone. I can test my speakers. So that can be very, very helpful. Come back over here, meeting notes. So I can start taking notes either during the meeting, or I can assign somebody in the meeting to take notes, or I can post some notes ahead of the meeting that would be shared with everyone who's invited, or you could do follow-up notes. So especially if you're responsible for taking meeting minutes or something of that nature, this is a great feature that Zoom does not quite do as well. Meeting details, that's pretty self-explanatory. Just like in Zoom, you can copy the join information, or you can send a link, or you can just invite somebody from within Teams. Currently, because I'm the only person in the meeting, I've only got one view. However, if you had a large meeting, you could toggle between the large gallery view, which is very similar to what you're seeing right now on the Zoom screen if you've got that up, or this newer together mode, which makes it look like you're more like at a rock concert or in a event hall, and you're not in little squares anymore. So that's what that together mode is. And then focus, kind of, again, because I don't have anything going on, but if I click focus, that makes all the attention on the shared content, so you're not looking at different things. Apply background effects. This is where, just like I've got a virtual background in Zoom, you can click apply background settings and apply a virtual background to your meeting. Blur is just sort of a way to make, let's say, your bedroom or your kitchen or wherever your home office is, if it's not an actual office, just kind of blur that out so that people can't see what's behind you. But you can also put, one of these other settings, and then you can apply and turn on video. Again, I'm not going to turn on the video right now because I'm afraid I'm going to blow things up. Others won't see the video when you're in preview, but the background settings is really helpful. Let me just come back here for a second. If you've got your own picture that you want to add, you can click Add New and then upload your own background. So for example, if I wanted to, I don't know, let's say I wanted that. I was presenting on gamification. I could put that background up. And again, your organization may have some specific rules about what types of backgrounds, but you do have that option. So I'm going to stop talking for just a second and check the chat. What's a SCORM file? Okay, so sort of off the beaten path, background is much easier to use than Zoom. A SCORM file, if you've ever taken like corporate required e-learning training, like sexual harassment training or how to do your job, and there's a learning management system that you have to log into, the SCORM file is how you package up that content so other people can use it. So that's your course design tip for today. But it's a great question. Turn on live captions. This is another one that really Microsoft Teams does a much better job at than, see, as I'm saying words, it's showing them up, than Zoom does. So as I'm talking, it automatically adds that captioning versus having to have somebody that's a note taker, which is what you need to do in Zoom. So if you need to have captioned videos for whatever reason, or if you just want to go back over your notes, having this turned on, the live captioning is just a really good plus. And Microsoft's got a pretty good speech recognition platform to begin with. So I would say try it out and see if it works for you. And if I hit start recording, everything would save, dial pad, and then turn off incoming video. So those are just some of the cool features. You can also share content just like I'm doing on Zoom by clicking the share content button. What happens is it brings up a much easier to navigate screen than Zoom does. And so I've got a much clearer view of what I have. And it also makes finding the whiteboard much easier. So if you are doing something where you want to do a demonstration or do some sticky note brainstorming, you can bring up this whiteboard and it will give you a series of tools and even sticky notes. So if you're trying to recreate a brainstorming session like you would in the office, you just click on the note and then I can click on it and then I can start typing. Let's see, brainstorm 1, disregard my spelling. And then I can, I could use the typing right here by clicking on the T. I can click my marker and I can draw. So the whiteboard, again, if you're trying to recreate a brainstorming exercise or something like that, as much as I like Zoom, this is so much easier. You do download the whiteboard app and pop it right in. And then if I want to get out of here, I can just stop presenting. And it goes away. I can choose in my settings to save the whiteboard, that type of thing. So before I leave the meeting setup, are there any questions or things that you'd like to see? Yes, so captions are saved. And that is one of their newer features that they've really improved. And Pat, if you'd like, when I send you the recording tomorrow, I can also send some links with how to do some of these features, just sort of like links to help files and stuff to make it easier for everybody. Happy to do that. Okay, I'll send some links when I send the video, and then that way, Pat, if you don't mind, you can send them off to folks. So I'm going to leave this meeting. We don't need to be back there anymore. If I come over here to Teams, again, this shows the team. I can invite, I can filter. If I come over here to the little eye in the far right corner, that provides information about the specific channel. And so I can see who's recently contributed. I can see everyone who's in the channel. I can click full list. So if you've got a lot of folks in the channel, I can join or create a new team if I'd like. If I come over here to the other menu, channel notifications, that's up to you individually. You can set how and what type of notifications you want to receive from the channels. You can pin something, you can manage the channel. Now, one of the things that I like from the channel management perspective is I can set permissions because it's my channel. So right now everybody can post, but I can also look at analytics and it'll let me see, because I'm a big data nerd. So I can look at how many users, what apps are being used, how many posts, how many replies, when the busiest time was for interaction and engagement. Sometimes it's helpful if you're trying to look at like, how come nobody's responded to a message, or I'm a team lead and I need to look at productivity. Sometimes you're just a nerd like me and you want to see what's going on. And then of course you can go back 90 days, 30 days, and 7. You can also look at it organization-wide. Now that would be more for the team's owner. Most organizations aren't going to let individuals look at organization-wide statistics. Coming over here to files, if you've got your OneDrive turned on, you can see what everyone is working on. If you don't have it turned on, you can click Add Cloud Storage. You can also manage any downloads. So we, right now, are not doing a lot in here for sharing information because the project has just gotten started. However, this is the download from the other group that I showed you. So I can go to my downloads and I can see that this is where I can go get that quality control form they want me to fill out. I'm going to pause for a minute and see if there's any questions as I look at the chat. Okay, companies confused by channels. So a lot of people get confused by channels. If you've ever used Slack, you can see where it can become a real sort of nightmare sometimes because there's too many channels. What I have found for channels, the most efficient way to do channels is to set a clear purpose for the channel, which you are able to do when you create a channel. So if I came over here and I say add channel, I'm going to give it I'm going to call it help desk. And then I'll give it a description. So use this channel, and I would go in and clean it up if you need answers from the help desk. And then if everyone uses the help desk, I could say automatically show, or when I add it, I can invite specific people to the channel. But the key thing I found with setting up channels is to give it a clear name and a very clear channel description so people know what the purpose is. And I've managed several projects in Slack and it can get really unruly. How did I get to analytics? Okay, great question. So just to revisit, so I'm over here on my Teams page. I click on the more options, the 3 dots up in the far right corner. And then I come down to manage channel and then analytics. And you'll have access to the recording too so that you can go back. I know I'm piling in a lot of information in a very short period of time. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to turn my camera on just so I can see y'all. And what questions do you have for teams? I mean, truly, we did about a 3-hour workshop just now in 30 minutes. So, and I still want to make sure we get to do and sway. From those of you that have the cameras on, I'm seeing a lot of like light bulb moments and things coming on. So let me know, is there something that you really are just like got to know? Or are you ready to move on to do and sway? To do? To do or not to do? That is the question. Okay, I'm also known for my really bad jokes. I'm going to close out of here. And rather than doing the PowerPoint, which I will also send along so that you can see what I'm doing, I'm going to turn this camera off. We're going to hop over to do. And can you all still see my screen? Okay. Sometimes with Zoom, when I change out of applications, it doesn't come along with me. So if you look at my very full taskbar down here, you'll notice that I've got this check mark with the number 2, and then there's also this letter S. So those are the 2 apps that we're going to look at next. You can download the To-Do app for Windows from the App Store. You can also download it to your iOS or Android devices, And as long as you're signed in with the same email, it will sync them across devices. So that way you can have your to-do with you wherever you go. So I'm going to click on my to-do list and we'll just get started. So I'm going to start off by, here's my day. And today I have several items. So I can click this off. And the to-do list gives you a nice little noise when you do it. So it gives you that sense of accomplishment. And I'm going to click this one off because I'm in the middle of the presentation now. And this one is getting pushed to tomorrow because I just didn't get it done. So if you want to add a task when you first log in, you can manage your account. You can also set up your settings. So right now, I don't have a Wonder list. If I did, I could have imported from there. I want my new tasks on top. I also want my starred tasks to even override my new tasks. So I might have 5 new tasks, but I want the ones that are starred at the top because those are the ones that I absolutely have to get done. If I don't like that sound, I can toggle that off by just clicking here, on, off. Confirm before deleting, that's good. Especially with tasks. A lot of times I don't care if I delete something, but with my tasks, I do want to confirm. App badge, today and overdue. So that's going to show me things that were due today or that were due yesterday that I haven't finished yet. So you've got, you want to get in that habit of clicking that off button. You can also pin this to the taskbar, which I have done to make it easier. I don't have to look for it all the time. You can set your theme. Light theme is a lighter background with dark print. Dark theme is a dark background with white text. Some people who do a lot of work at night prefer the dark background. Some people, I found for myself with slightly older eyes, I like the light background with the darker text. It's just easier for me. But if you've set a specific theme for your Windows computer, you can also use that. Smart lists, these are the things like I'm going to turn on completed just because it'll give me a sense of like accomplishment. And I'm going to turn off assigned to me because I'm the only person with access to my to-do list. So it seems a little bit redundant to show things that are assigned to me. But you can use this within your office, your group, your organization, and say, oh, that's assigned to this person, that's assigned to this person. Notifications, again, that's up to you if you want to turn them on or off. And then if you're sensing that you've got your to-do list on 2 devices and they don't seem to be matching up, come into the settings and hit sync. Sometimes you just got to give it that little extra push to make it sync up. It is the internet and sometimes things are strange. All right, so if I wanted to add a task for today, I could just type in my task. So I'm going to say eat dinner. And I want to do that today, but I could say I want to eat dinner every single day. I forget to eat. So I could also pick a date. Maybe it's eat dinner with friends. If I come over here to the clock, I can get a reminder. So I want to get a reminder. I don't want to eat dinner at 10 o'clock tonight, so I'm going to pick a day and time. And down here is my little clock. So if I click here, I'm going to say, remind me to eat dinner at 7. Now, the one thing that's I found a little bit clunky about this, and once you master it, it's not a big deal, is in many applications, when you click the time, it automatically stays. Here, you have to click the check mark to get it to change. So if you forget that step, it's like, why am I still eating dinner at 10 o'clock? I wanted to eat dinner at 7:15. So I can come over here to the minutes, same thing. I can use my scroll wheel. I'm going to say 7:15 p.m., click my check mark, and save. So now it says, eat dinner, remind me today at 7:15 p.m. If it's an ongoing thing, I can also click this icon in the far right that says repeat. And I can say daily, only on weekdays, weekly, monthly, yearly, or custom. So much like a calendar event, you can set it up. So I'm going to say, remind me to eat dinner on weekdays. I come back over here where I've got my cursor. I press enter on my keyboard, and now it appears on my list of things to do for today. Any questions? I'm going to just pop and take a look at the chat. Okay, where did you say to find? Yes, it is an app in Windows. So I came down to my little Windows store and got it. It's a free app. And then I also, because I use an iPhone, I also went to the Apple store and downloaded the To-Do app for my phone. It's also available in the Google Play Store. The difference between this and the to-do list in Outlook, that's a great question. Basically, this one is a little less clunky than in Outlook, and it's focused specifically on tasks versus the one in Outlook, which is also more meetings and stuff. So this is really like a task-oriented. Think about back in the old days when we would write our to-do list on a piece of paper on the refrigerator. This is kind of like your refrigerator list. All right, so I'm going to leave this up here. You can look at tasks that have been completed. So it shows you that. Tasks that are still left to do. So I've got 5 tasks still left to do. Some of these are not due right away. I can also create a new list. So let's say I wanted to add a list for preparation for course launch. So I'm launching a course in 3 weeks around gamification. So my to-do list might be, you know, build my landing page, set up my payment processing, start advertising. If it's a big meeting or an event that you're planning, you might have a list just for that. How did I add the stars? Okay, great question. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to click, see my list here, write scenario 1. By default, there is a star. So if I click in that, it's going to mark it starred. And now when I come to important, it will show up for me. So that's the thing that I really like too. They make it very simple and it's easy to use on the phone. I can just, you know, click my star button. And since this is due tomorrow, I think I need to get started on it. So I can have as many lists as I like. I can also invite people. So if I add a list, I can reorder my list by dragging them. So when you click over here, notice I now have this vertical bar that allows me to drag and drop things in a different order or different place. Now in my practice, I've got, if I hover over this little icon of a person, that's share list. So from here, I can click create an invitation link, and I can either copy the link and email it to them, or I can manage access and determine who can access the list at what level. So just like you can share things within OneDrive, the same continuity applies. Any questions about to do? It's really simple. The little cat here is sleeping because nobody's done anything. You can also go here and pick a theme. So if you want your first page to have a theme or specific colors, because we're Lavender Dragon team, we have a lot of purple in our stuff, but you can make it so it's very pleasing to yourself. You can also email the list. So I use Chrome and Gmail, but you can mail it using Outlook. It'll give you a list of options available. And then again, you can go to that app store from Microsoft to download the to-do list app for your computer. Yay, somebody's going to start using this tomorrow. I love it. All right, any other questions about to do? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to close that out. And it's still, and this is the nice thing, is it's persistent. I still have one thing from my today list that I haven't checked off. So I still see that little number 1. So if I don't come back and click it that I've done it, when I log in tomorrow, I'm going to get this like, hey, you didn't eat dinner last night, you know, a warning. All right, so Microsoft Sway. Microsoft Sway is a way that you can, I'm going to minimize the chat here. You can create some really cool, fun, interactive newsletters, presentations that have a little bit more oomph than PowerPoint without having to spend quite as much time building it. You can access Sway one of 2 ways. You can go to the Microsoft App Store and download the free version of Sway, or if you go to your favorite search engine, and type in Microsoft Sway, if you're logged into your Microsoft account, you can also do it as a web-based. So some people prefer to work on the web. I prefer to have it on my computer just because that's where I do a lot of work, but you can access it from one of 2 ways. So let's say that I want to start a new Sway. I've got 2 different ways I can do that. I can start from a template. So they give you a list of templates here that you can use. So we're going to do, let's do announcement, because we're just going to make an announcement. Hey, we've got something going on. So now if I come over here where it says start editing this Sway, I click on editing. It's preparing the thing for me. So now I can give it a title. Great news. All right, so great news, we're back in the office. If I click over here, add a background image, I can click that icon. Microsoft is actually going to give me a list of approved and selected images, so I don't even have to search through my stuff. Or I can use an image that I have that's specific to my company. So I'm going to say, let's just use this exclusive good news. And I'm going to pick that. I'm going to click add. And so now we've got this good news background. And here we're going to just, leave the party people because we don't have a whole lot of time to change it. But the same thing, you could go in and you can change it. You can pick specific focus points, like, is the whole image important, or do you only want somebody to focus on one specific thing? So tap on what's important. So let's say we want to focus on that person's face. So when you build your sway, all the focus is going to go on there. And then we're going to close that out. I can put a caption if I like, people celebrating. I can do a bulleted list, an unordered list, or a numbered list. I can emphasize. So let's say I want to say we're celebrating. I highlight it, I click emphasize. Emphasize means bold. Accent is italics. I can add a hyperlink. So maybe you want to add a link to your company's website. And I can delete it if I don't want it. So now we're just going to go here. We're going to pick another background. We're going to say good news. Click on add. And one thing that I want to point out is you may have noticed in this top right corner, there's a check mark that says Creative Commons only. That's really important, especially if you're sending something out to the general public. Internally, you're probably not as much potential trouble. There are licensing fees that often have to be paid when using images or music or videos. If you select something that is licensed, quote unquote, licensed Creative Commons, that means that the person who created that has said anyone is free to use it, as long as they either A, give me credit for it, or just use it. I've said, yes, anyone can use it. So the images that are being pulled are licensed Creative Commons. That's why I have that check mark there. In fact, tomorrow we're doing a whole session on Facebook Live on picking Creative Commons images and videos for your presentations. If I come over here to video, I could also do Creative Commons licensed videos. So if I'd rather have a short little video in here, I could do that instead. So let's say I want, this is a minute 54 seconds. That's pretty long. I don't really think I want people to watch, a 15-minute video or a 2-minute video. So I'm going to just leave my image there, but you could put a video in here as well, or you could replace it with a video. This next thing is your message. So you're sending out an email to everyone saying, hey, everyone, we're coming back to the office. Just wanted to let you know, if you're on floors 1, 3, and 5, you're going to come to work on the 1st and 3rd weeks of the month. If you're on floors 2, 4, 6, you'll come the 2nd and 4th weeks, whatever your message is. So I'm going to just say, come back to work. And then we're going to give it a date. And we're going to say, 9 to 5. And then here, link with more information. Again, using our hypothetical situation of we're creating this back to work announcement, the link with more information might be a link to HR, or it might be a link to the company's homepage or something like that. Contact us. That would just, how are people going to get in touch with you? So we're going to just move this out. All right, just so you can see what it looks like. Heading, again, if you're used to using headings in Word, it's that same type of thing. You can adjust your heading. You can adjust the card here. I'm going to just leave that as is. Now I come over here to design, and now I can sort of look and see what is it going to look like. So here we've got this great, big, huge thing. That's because the image I chose was very large. I could go in and edit the image and make it smaller. This is a little, message. Hey, people are celebrating. We've got more good news. Here's our announcement. Here's who's doing it by. If I come over here to styles, I can now change very quickly my font, my overall layout. Do I want it horizontal? Do I want it to appear as slides where people click through? So if you're making this as a presentation, you just click slide mode. And so they give you quite a few options. Clicking on an arrow gives you even more options. So just like in Word or a PowerPoint, when you click on the design arrows, they give you more choices. So you really can customize it to your event. Now, if I click on the play button, because I chose slide view, it's on an automatic timer to get started. So this is what it looks like based on the design. And now I just click my little arrows and I've got this fun, interactive newsletter. And again, I put this together on the fly, but I encourage you to go in and try this because it will just sort of spice things up a little bit. Click that button. It shows me what the individual cards are. I can X out of it. I can also then share it with people. So I could share the link on social media. I could share it in an email. You could use an embed code. For example, if you wanted to embed it on your company website, you could get that embed code and your webmaster could put that on the website without having to do a lot of programming and coding. You can also invite people to either view it, or you may want to work on it as a joint project to edit it. And if they are going to edit it, you can say, hey, you have to have a password. So that is the down and dirty how to use Sway in 10 minutes or less. What do you think? Do you see any possible uses for it? All right, very cool. Yeah, you can share it in Teams because it's a web link. So you can share the edit link, you can share the actual link itself. It's just a fun, easy way, and you don't get so hung up in some of the PowerPoint stuff. It's very, very easy. What you're going to lose in Sway that you have in PowerPoint are you're not going to be able to have animated bullet points coming in and things like that. But you're thinking about this as a newsletter and not as much a presentation, but it is a way to make a fun, quick presentation to get the point across. And again, you don't have to use their templates. You can create your own from scratch, and just each of those little things is considered a card. So each card is a different block of hang on, there we go. So if you just think about each card being a different block of content, it makes it nice and easy. So if you wanted to start one from scratch, I just click create new. I'm not going to do, so here, create new, I didn't choose a template. So now this is what they call their storyline or the storyboard. This is where you put the guts, the meat and potatoes, the information. And then when you come to design, that's where you can make it look pretty. So my recommendation is figure out what your key points are first, get that the way you want it, then go work on the design instead of trying to force your content to fit your design. Fit the design around your content. So I hope that this was helpful because we're already at 6:45 Central Time at least. What questions do you have? What would you like me to go over some more or in depth? Oh, I'm glad you're excited. And that's a great question. They do not, because you're going to send them a web link to the Sway, so they do not have to have Sway installed on their computer to see it. This lives on the web. So you just send them a link. Now you can also export it. So if you export it, you can export it as a Word or as a PDF document. It just loses some of the pizzazz. But especially when, let's say maybe you need your boss to approve something before you send it out, you could send it in the Word format to just say, hey, take a look at this, make sure there's no typos. Sometimes it's easier to insert comments using the Word insert comment feature, because Sway doesn't have an easy way to do that. Or if you have it as an individual, You can put it out as a PDF, and that way people can't edit it. So that is an option. The other thing is you can create your own template. So if there's a format that you decide, hey, we want everything to look like this. Maybe it's meeting minutes or meeting announcements. Yeah, once you use Sway, you can just email it out, and then you can determine if people just view it or if they get editing permission. I've used it on multiple platforms. I've viewed Sways on my iPhone, on my iPad. I've viewed them on my Mac. I've viewed them on a PC. I've seen people share them on Facebook. There are some groups that I belong to. They create entire training programs using Sway and then send them out to their trainees via Sway. So there's a lot of power in what seems to be a very simple app. The other thing to point out is the accessibility checker and the accessibility view. Because compliance with Americans with Disabilities Act is important, you can use the checker and it will let you know if there's something missing. Yeah, it's a great marketing tool. And again, it's, if you've ever created newsletters using something like MailChimp or Infusionsoft or Aweber or any of those platforms, sometimes it can be really mind-numbing to try and get all the pieces correct. But if you want just something quick and easy and fun, this is a great way to do it. Yes, Sway is free. Sway is free as long as you have a Microsoft account, and Microsoft accounts are free also. So any other questions, comments, protests, concerns? Okay, so then the last thing I'm going to show you, because I promised there would be some bonus material. Many of you may already know this, but in case you don't, or you're not familiar with it, or you haven't used it, Microsoft, as long as you're in that Microsoft Office world, makes it very easy to share comments and invite people to look at your work and see what you're doing. So for example, if I click share, I can share this document, I can see who it's shared with. I'm going to use my personal OneDrive. So it goes up to the OneDrive. And then from there, I can invite other Microsoft users to leave comments or, see my work without having to email it back and forth. And I can keep track of who's got access, what they're doing. So now I can send it either via Outlook, I can copy the link to OneDrive, I can give permission, anyone with the link can edit, or I can turn that off. I can also set an expiration date. So you can only edit this for the next 2 days, or you can only edit this for the next 24 hours. I can also set a password. So if I don't want somebody sharing with other people, I can set that password so that only the people who I've given permission to have access to it. So I can add a message. I'm going to just send this to my son. All right, because he's on the team and he's used to me sending him strange stuff whenever I do presentations. So disregard. This is, all right, so then I click send. And I put my message in the wrong spot. So they're saying I can't do it. So it's like disregard. And then I click send. And so now when he logs into his work email tomorrow, he's going to get this presentation and he's going to come upstairs going, Mom, what are you doing? So that's the easy way that you can share it though. And then with comments, you can also leave comments specific to a slide, specific to a section of text in a Word document. So I can insert a new comment, and the little comment box appears up here. So if I shared this with several of you and said, hey, can you please take a look at my presentation? Does it flow correctly? Are there any typos? You could go in and leave some comments, and then when I get logged in the next time, I would see that comment. I can either resolve it or I can reply to it. And this works in Word, PowerPoint, Excel. So if you've got those features turned on, it's a great way to do documents back and forth. The other thing that you can do is, if you don't want to share comments that way, in Word and Excel and PowerPoint, you can also do the show comments here. And in Word, you've got even more flexibility in terms of showing the markup, keeping track of changes, not quite as robust in PowerPoint. The other thing is if I click on this accessibility checker, it's going to tell me some warnings. So check my reading order so I can go down here and look at slide 13. Okay, so there's that. It says duplicate slide title because I used that same thing. Do you have any questions? That was more of a placeholder prompt. And then also some alternative text. What that's saying is on these images, I haven't added what's called alternative text. So if somebody's using a screen reader, they would know what that's a picture of. And if the picture is essential to your presentation, you really must use alternative text. If it's not essential, if it's just sort of like a placeholder image, it doesn't add any value or meaning to the presentation, just makes it look pretty, you can get away with not using alt text. Okay, so what else would you like to know? Carla, yes, I do use To Do on my iPad as well. And that, is that an animal? No, I just let, it's so, oh, so he or she, it's very cute. Hello, puppy. Okay, we've got roughly 7 minutes left. What would you like to know? Or did I, oh, there's another animal, yay. Introduce the pets. It's after hours, you can introduce your pets. So I guess my question for you is, before I choke myself, did this meet your expectations? Did I cover everything that you wanted to learn through the session? Do you feel that you could go in tomorrow or tonight and download these apps and start using them with at least a modicum of success? And for teams, did that answer some of the other questions or show you some things that you might not have been aware of? Oh, good. I love when people's wheels spin. So in case you need to get a hold of me, don't hesitate. It's, yes, a very long email address, but it's marynunley@lavenderdragonteam.com. So you can also, hook up with me on LinkedIn, and I'm on there every day as well. Happy to answer questions or, provide some suggestions if you're stuck. And if not, that's okay too.